Hello, I'm Lou Baker. I've absolutely loved my Dreamtime Fellowship. Special thanks, of course, to Luke Jerram for selecting and mentoring me and for sponsoring the fellowship. It's been an amazing, aspirational and glowing experience. Thanks to my fellow fellows, Lola, Max, Lolly and Harry. Thank you to the Spike community for welcoming me. I'm especially grateful to Safia Venner from Spike and Nikki Sim from UE for your support and all the opportunities you've given me. Thank you both. When I started my fellowship, I was in the middle of 2 Arts Council funded exhibition tours, and I've had other exhibitions throughout the year as well. However, I wanted to tell you specifically about what I've been doing at Spike Island. In November, I was commissioned to develop a large-scale, site-responsive, immersive and interactive glow-in-the-dark installation, Glowing and Growing. It was for Light Night Worcester for February 2024, and it was a collaboration with Ollie Bliss. Naturally, I began to knit, but this time with glow-in-the-dark yarn. How do you go about transforming a cavernous, empty shop into an immersive glow-in-the-dark installation? With used domestic textiles, of course. I spent several weeks in January spray painting psychedelic patterns onto old duvet covers, sheets and blankets. I was very grateful to be able to use the resin room at Spike, but it was so cold I had to wear all my old ski gear. I was also very grateful for the opportunity to work with Izzy Jones, a second-year UE Fine Arts student who did her work placement with me. She helped me paint some of the textile panels in the studio, still cold, but not as cold as the resin room. Look at the transformation. Overall, we painted more than 40 large textile panels and some old clothes. Finally, it was time to transform the space in Worcester. After months of meetings, writing proposals, budgets, planning, painting and knitting, Glowing and Growing was installed. Ollie and I facilitated drop-in workshops, inviting visitors to make quirky glow-in-the-dark sculptures to add to the installation. We used second-hand clothes, glow-in-the-dark yarn and lots of imagination. It was a fabulous time, and it really was glowing and growing. We'd painted some clothing for the artists to wear, and seeing these glow-in-the-dark living sculptures moving around the space, partly camouflaged, was very exciting. It gave me ideas. Glowing and Growing was truly magical. Over 6 days, we had nearly 5,500 visitors and lots of fabulous interactions. It was amazing. In Bristol, in Studio 26, Lola and I ran a workshop for UE students with yarn and clay. We had a very mellow afternoon of making and conversation. It was great. Thinking more about transformation and camouflage, I began to knit some wearable sculptures using some of the leftover glow-in-the-dark yarn from Glowing and Growing. And of course, my new wearable sculptures needed a den as a frame. But why a den? Most of us made dens when we were young, with blankets and washing racks and our imagination. It was fun. It was play. Often it was about hiding, being unseen, invisible to the eyes of supervising adults. Or it was about having a space of our own. Sometimes, however, there was also a frisson of fear at the prospect of being unseen, forgotten, or left behind. And the knitting continued. This time, I decided to stitch smaller sections of knitting onto some of my old black clothes. I had great fun doing a photo shoot to promote Spike Open Studios, and this image ended up on a poster in Broadmead. I was also videoed knitting inside my glow-in-the-dark den by the Spike social media team, Nikita and Ruby. Thank you both. Sadly, the video won't play here, but check out my Instagram to see it. It was used to promote Spike Open Studios. Thinking about clothing and identity, I decided to cover the outside of my den with some of my old black clothes. I wanted a stark contrast between the outside of the space and the inside. I really enjoyed helping with the salon hang in the corridor at Spike Island in preparation for Open Studios. Didn't it look amazing? Also absolutely loved being part of Open Studios. Visitors were transformed into shape-shifting living sculptures. Stepping through a dark portal, they were transported into an immersive, vibrant den-like space. It was glorious to behold. I love the way that wearing my sculptures often makes people move differently. I also love hearing the laughter and the conversations. There are some delightful videos on my YouTube channel and Instagram if you're interested. And the knitting continued. In September, Lola and I had fun setting up an exhibition in the corridor at Spike. I installed all my knitted and stitched fleshy sculptures, which I've made as both my elderly parents were dying. I realise now that all that making was part of my grieving process. I called the installation Made Flesh. It was wonderful to exhibit alongside Lola's fabulous ceramic sculptures, but of course we had to consider the fact that my work is made to be touched, whereas hers is definitely not. I especially valued seeing how different people interacted with my work. Thank you to all who came. Look at this fabulous photo of Lola, the living sculpture inside the Made Flesh installation. And finally, for the Fellows' farewell celebration, I set up a slightly different, new and improved glow-in-the-dark den, including my 2 new living sculptures. This work explores the idea that the self we present publicly might not reflect the multiple glowing selves within. Again, these are video stills. The movement and sound is just wonderful. Thanks to all who took part. It was a fabulous finale to our fellowship year. I'm going to really miss the community here, my fellow fellows, and my space. What next? In fact, the reason I'm not with you tonight is that Ollie and I have another commission for Glowing and Growing, this time in Lancashire, and this time including all my new shape-shifting wearable sculptures, and it's happening this week. I also have plans underway for some exciting projects for next year, and I'm very pleased to be part of the New Platform Art Professional Development Programme for 2024-25. Thank you. Thanks again to Luke, my fellow fellows and the Spike community for a wonderful Dreamtime Fellowship. Do follow me on Instagram, check out my YouTube channel, and for more about my other exhibitions this year, visit my website. But most importantly, let's keep in touch. Thank you for everything.